So as I promised in the beginning, in the morning, we have several viewpoints today that we're going to consider, listen, and think about during this course of the conference. So we heard about the industry viewpoint, and we're moving on to the societal questions. So why and how should the society be engaged to the energy shift? Me, as someone coming from a different perspective than most of you probably, and coming from a different sector, this is a rather interesting one. I am someone who probably understands or at least acknowledges these questions that we're discussing today somewhat, yet not on a daily basis, and probably isn't doing enough to help the society in the energy transition. So on the topic of engaging society with a human-centric approach to the challenges in the energy sector, we have Dan Boget. He is an applied anthropologist devoted to developing people-friendly and environmentally responsible services, products, and solutions. He is a research fellow at the Research Center of the Slovenian Academy of Sciences and Arts, a researcher at the Institute of Innovation and Development of the University of Ljubljana, and an assistant professor for cultural and social anthropology at the University of Ljubljana's Faculty of Arts. He has applied and interdisciplinary projects, several of them, which have worked in this field. He founded the EASA Applied Anthropology Network and served as network's convener from 2010 to 2018. He is the author of many articles and monographs on sustainable lifestyle, human-technology interaction, volunteering, and altruism. Please.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the conference and welcome to my bedroom from where I sent my message to you. So we're all stuck at home, not all of us, but our family actually is. So for the last 14 days, we were really we had to stay indoors because we were COVID positive, and therefore we were in quarantine. And now we have lockdown and new measures in Slovenia, and therefore we have to stay at home even more and for additional 2 weeks or so. So I just want to share the presentation. Hope you can see it. I would like to present this topic. So what are the new energy habits of Homo covidensis, a new human that is being created indoors during the quarantine? We have started to shop in new ways. So when our family goes to do shopping, or the parents actually do shopping, we used to purify, disinfect everything that we brought home, or now we order things from the online shop. We changed bodily techniques, so started to wash hands more. We started to even to party online, so not only to work through the computers, but also to meet our friends in this way. And during this time, the old formula proposed approximately 200 years ago of the ideal day, so 8 + 8 + 8, 8 hours of labor, 8 hours of relaxation, 8 hours of sleep, has been dissolved, and everything has been mixed together into one. And we trust, and at the same time distrust more and more the technologies. And this will be the main part of my presentation. So our cohabitation with technologies, which have become one of the basic assumptions of the COVID and the post-COVID age. So what are the main assumptions of the new era that we have started to create? First of all, we have made a shift from the risk society that we have started to create in the 20th century. So everything that is outdoors is dangerous, presents a risk to a human being, to the surveillance society. So we bring to our homes and to our lives more and more smart devices that constantly track what we do, how we communicate, and so on. We spend much more time indoors. This year is especially different in this sense. So even last year, we spent 70% of time approximately at home, 15% at work, and in some other places out of home, and 5% in car. And the next assumption is the rise of surveillance capitalism, which is connected to the digital devices that cohabitate with us. So the companies take our data, interpret our data, and create our digital doubles and suck the capital out of our digital doubles. We live in the age of post-truth. It means that it doesn't matter anymore what is real. You can create any kind of news, post it online, and if you have enough followers or friends in inverted commas, then you can share the news all around the world, virtually overnight. And we cohabitate more and more with technologies. So they have become indispensable part of our daily lives. Where does it lead to? So we have three scenarios. The most dystopian probably is the digital totalitarianism, which is based on our digital data. And the foundations of such a system can be seen currently in China, for example, where they have started to implement the social ranking system, which works on the basis of your social credit, which you get from information how you live, how you communicate, what you throw away, how you behave in public, and so on. The second scenario is the digital capitalism. So the different smart devices, such as smartphones, smart refrigerators, smart vacuum cleaners, will track what we do, how we live, and will report this to the companies, to also to other institutions. And in this way, our data will be the most important source of capital in the 21st century. So the most utopian scenario at the moment, and the one that we strive to get to, is the digital democracy. And since this event is closely connected to Estonia, or Estonia, I think the Estonian model, or even the European model, could be the one that should or could be spread around the world. And this is the scenario that we will get to if we have a chance to switch off from technologies, not only to be constantly connected. And another important foundation of getting to the third scenario, to the digital democracy, is to follow the 4 steps of the people-centered development. We have tested this approach now in approximately 15 different projects, Horizon 2020 and other European national projects. So you can see the list below. And what's the point? The problem of the current design and development of solutions in the industry and in institutions in general is that it starts with the step 3 here on this image, interpretation. So for example, a team in a company starts to thinking about what shall we develop for what they call users, customers, clients, and what will we create to serve their needs. The problem is that the first 2 steps are often left out. So the identification, who are we solving for and with, and analysis, what do people want? The problem is that the research and development team does not go to the people, tries to understand their lifestyle, and then analyze with them what do they need, and to invite the same people, so from the identified in steps 1 and analyzed in step 2 to the step 3, interpretation, and develop or at least start designing the solutions with them. And then you have to test it with the same people. And if it doesn't work, you go back to the step number 1 and ask people again, does it work for you and why it doesn't? And so this is an iterative process. You have to go back to the people and keep asking them, does it work for you? Does it make any sense for you? And maybe you've noticed that I keep using the word people instead of users, clients, or customers. I think these words are really problematic when we think about the smart solutions for the future. What we need are smart people and not only smart technologies that think instead of us. So I guess nobody of you woke up this morning, went to the bathroom, had a look in the mirror and said, today I will be a better user. And I guess nobody wants to have a tombstone and on it engraved, he was an excellent client or customer. So if we make this shift in the way we discuss about these issues, we make people, even if we just leave out these 3 words, we make people more active and engaged. And this is the purpose of the people-centered development. So why do we need smart people? Because we will live in the future with even more smart things, apparently. By 2030, it's expected that we will have up to 100 billion smart things living with us, cohabitating with us. And how will the future look like? If it will be like this, so these are some devices that we have at home, this will be a nightmare. So these are not very smart devices. So on the top left side is the interface of our washing machine, so laundry machine. And it has 16 programs. And out of those programs, I used only 3 of them, I think. And for some of them, for example, that one, there is some kind of hook coming out of some flask or some bottle. In this program, I just call it the Phantom program because I don't know what does it do and what's its purpose, because I lost the instructions. And on the top right side is a thermostat in our living room. And I set it up only once in 2011. And from then on, I just leave it as it is because I don't know how to change the settings. It's really complicated. You have to press 2 buttons at the same time. I don't know which ones. And again, I don't know where the instructions are. And on the bottom left side, there is our oven. And when the electricity runs out in our apartment, it's a problem because it doesn't work. So we have to wait for our neighbor to come to set it up again. He knows which 2 buttons or actually 3 you have to press at the same time to set up the clock on the oven. And here on the bottom right side is a sensor in our lobby. So when you enter, the light goes automatically on. But it also presents a huge problem. Why? Because then it goes also off automatically after approximately 15 minutes. And then our children, the youngest 2, sleep next door and they want to have their door open ajar. So a little bit of light comes to their room. And when the light goes off, they started to yell, "Daddy, Mommy." And then we had to stand up, go to the lobby, and the light goes on. And then it goes on and on every 15 minutes like this. So this kind of devices make my life more miserable than some kind of devices that would take into account me and my personal needs. Not to talk about this remote control, for example. So this is a remote control at my mother's place. We don't have a TV at our home, but my mother does. And she bought a new one, I think 3 years ago. And then we went, when we visited her, she showed us the new TV. So we put on the 3D glasses and we could watch then our TV narrator Slavko Bobonik is his name, in 3 dimensions. Okay, it was a fascinating experience, but it was the first and the last time when we used these 3D glasses. And then I wanted to switch to another channel, and my mother yelled, "No, don't do it, don't touch anything." And then I asked her, "What's the problem?" "You will ruin everything." "What do you mean?" And then she showed me what's the problem. This remote control has 50 buttons on the front and 50 buttons on the back side. And she uses only 4 out of those 50 buttons. If you press anything else, she thinks the device will just explode, probably. So this kind of remote controls, which have too many buttons, do not serve their purpose to make our lives easier and to make the use of this device more convenient. So we wanted to follow these 4 steps of the people-centered development in one of the projects that we ran, and I led it in Slovenia. Drive Green was the title of the project, and its goal was the development of a culture-sensitive smartphone app for supporting sustainable mobility. So our main goal was not to develop something in the way that would fit the approach one size fits all. Instead, we relied on ethnographic research, and we started the research and development process with ethnography. It means the in-depth research of what people want, how do they communicate, how do they use the public transport, how do they drive their cars, and so on, in 4 cities: Ljubljana, Belgrade, Budapest, and Newcastle and Durham in the UK. And in each of these cities, we tried to identify the habits of people and to try to understand what does the pyramid of social stratification look like in each of these cities. So they were quite different. This is, let's say, the pyramid from Belgrade, and on the top you can see this big black German car. So it has to be big, it has to be black, it has to be German. It doesn't matter how much diesel or gasoline does it spend. What matters is that it has this label on the top, either Mercedes, Audi, or BMW, and then it goes down to other transport modes, to the public transport, and on the bottom are the people who cycle and who walk, the pedestrians and cyclists. So according to the general impression in Belgrade, these people don't even have enough money to afford ticket for a bus. So this is why they cycle. And there's a huge problem how to shift this pyramid around and how to make this transition to a more sustainable way of living and sustainable way of mobility. And on the bottom of this slide, you can see 3 photos, and they're not from Belgrade. So the left one is from Ljubljana, the middle one is from Belgrade, and the right one is from Newcastle. And you can see that in a way it's similar in all these cities. So the people who drive the big black cars can have some privileges or take for themselves some privileges to park in the places where it's not allowed. And when we started the research, we realized something. It's very difficult to move people or to persuade people to change their mobility habits by suggesting them to sit from their big black car to on a bicycle, for example. We had to use another approach, and this is what made people worried. This image from the Wall-E cartoon, it's one of the best animated movies on the 21st century. If you haven't seen it, you should have a look. And it shows people in the future, how will they look like, and how will they get obese because of sitting too much, because of having screens in front of their noses, because of constantly eating and drinking something. And this is actually perhaps also the face of Homo covidensis. This is how we, the COVID man, this is how we might look like if this goes on for years, or if there is another crisis because of which we will have to be at home to stay indoors for months or perhaps even years. And this is what makes people worried. And therefore, we decided to make a shift in the transition to more sustainable mobility by broadening our focus into two different aspects: health and well-being, on three levels. So on the top is the individual level. So we realize that people are more worried about what will happen with them personally than with the planet, unfortunately. Then we have the level of the city. So again, people are more worried what will happen around them in their near surroundings than on the whole planet. And then we get to the same realization of the same goal by focusing on individuals, then focusing on communities, and finally we get to the level of the planet. And we developed an app called 123, so it's kind of internationally understandable name, and it represents 3 steps: one for you, the second is for the city, and third one is for the planet. And it's adapted. So the goals that you have to do are adapted to each of the cities where we can adapt it to. So this one is, for example, adapted to Ljubljana. But more importantly, what we wanted to achieve is not only to have different tasks and goals and badges and so on for different actions, like the best cyclist in Ljubljana or top 10 cyclists in, let's say, Tallinn. But instead, we wanted to make a shift from the quantified self. So it means measuring our own activities with different devices, smartwatches, smartphones, and other devices that track our activities, to something more important at the moment: quantified us. And we developed an approach called Indirect microdonations. So what does it mean? So you challenge someone through the app and through the media, also with the support of the local media. For example, here on the image is the mayor of Ljubljana. And you challenge the mayor in cycling, for example, in 2 weeks. And if he wins, he's free. So if he wins against all people using the app in Ljubljana, and if he loses, he has to pay a certain amount, let's say 400 euros, from his own budget for improvement of cycling infrastructure. And this approach has proven to work in all 4 research cities. So we checked it with people, and they really liked it, that they collaborate. At the same time, they compete against somebody who is a representative of the city, also representative of the city capital, or with somebody who is just famous in the city. And this kind of people-centered approach, so that we go to the people, ask them first, what do they want? So if I twist around Donald Trump's famous quote, America first, here we said people first. So we wanted really to emphasize what people want, need, and then use this kind of approach to develop new solutions. We used it in different projects, as I said before, and one of them is Horizon 2020 project called Mobistyle. And here is one of the research sites that we focused on in the Mobistyle project. And it's the smartest building in Slovenia, probably one of the smartest in Central and Southeastern Europe. But why is it so smart? I mean, they call it smart because it has so many sensors. It measures constantly what is going on in the building by checking 20,000 approximately input-output signals of the temperature in rooms, of CO2, of whether the windows are opened, closed, the door opened, closed, and so on, by cameras and other devices. And then we started to wonder, how do people feel in this building, which is a part of the University of Ljubljana, and it was one of the biggest infrastructural investments of the university. And we sent out a questionnaire at the beginning of our research, and we got many answers back, so even that was suspicious. And one of the questions was related to the flow of cold air in lecture rooms and offices. So whether it bothers people or not, and many stated that it actually bothers them. And we left some place open for their answers. And here are just some of them who stated, and many of them came, like, it bothers me if cold air is blowing directly into my feet. I'm not feeling good because I'm always cold. And one of them was even yelling with capital letters, "It's way too cold in the lecture rooms. Please increase the temperature for at least 3 degrees. The students sometimes wear winter jackets at lectures because of the cold." And then when we read this feedbacks from the people, something came to our mind, an advertisement that I wanted to share with you.
Playing jazz.
Playing jazz.
Smoothie.
Making smoothie.
Calendar.
No meetings today. Remember, dentist at 9:30.
Fire off.
Fire off.
Open door.
Door open.
And we're gonna do one more.
Oh yeah. Open door.
Wrong voice command.
Open door.
Wrong voice command.
Open. Open door.
Repeat that.
Open door.
I didn't understand that.
Hey, open door.
Play on the floor.
Get on the floor. Open the door.
Wrong
Open the
voice
door.
command. Error.
Hey there. With a rock. Open door. Open door. Open door. Higher.
Higher volume.
Higher.
Higher.
So this is yet another face of the Homo covidensis, of the human that has to live with the smart solutions installed in buildings and cannot actually change the way they work in the way that he would want to. For example, later when we did our ethnographic research, we found one of the causes of people feeling so cold in rooms. So these were the ventilators installed in the rooms below people's legs, and then when it's constantly blowing in your legs, you have the feeling that it's cold in the room, even though if it's perhaps not. And people started to hack the building. So this was an interesting finding because there are computer engineers working in the building, among others. And one of the professors bought on Alibaba a reflector for approximately 40 euros and brings it each time to the lecture room and switches it on because he wants to use the beamer, the projector. And when you switch it on, the light goes down in the room. So why? Because the building knows better than you. If you project something, then you don't need light in the room. But the professor wants to write on the blackboard, so therefore he bought this reflector. And at another faculty of the University of Ljubljana, where I work, they installed in 2008 some smart locks on doors of each lecture room. What was the purpose? So you had a card and you could open the door only with a card. And in this way, you can follow better the interaction with the building, you can track how the pedagogical process is carried out. But what was the issue? So every time when the lecture started, I was there then gatekeeper for 15 minutes when those people that came, the students that came late to the lecture room, knocked on the door, and then I had to open the door and close the door. And after a year or two, there was this wooden wedge in every lecture room, so you could put it under the door to block the door so they didn't close. And this kind of pre-modern device was used to hack the post-modern technological surveillance system. And again, at the building, the smart building that I presented you before, this is how people decorate their environment to make it more livable, to make it more pleasant, with plants, with carpets, with personal things that they bring into their workplace. And when we realized all of that, in the Horizon 2020 project called Mobistal, we prepared these 10 commandments for the engineering and design team. And one of the commandments here on the left side is the calm technology principle. So in my opinion, it's one of the most important principles in development of any kind of smart solutions. So the solutions that we are developing, smart solutions, should recede in backgrounds of our lives, and they should not interfere our everyday lives by buzzing, beeping, blinking, and so on. And another thing, we wanted to put people in the front. And here is one of the teachers working in that smart building. And she was the one that explained best to other people, and they really listened to her. She was one of the heroes of our project. And we recorded videos of her, showed those videos, YouTube videos, to other people. If it's cold in the room, put on a jacket. If it's too hot, open the window, let the fresh air in. Because people don't listen just to devices, they prefer to listen to other people, especially their colleagues. And this is why we have to put people in the front. Again, we have to think about people first when developing this kind of solutions. Another thing, we have to bring together two images. The image of the big data, this is here on the left side, and it's again one of the pictures, paintings at this smart building on a corridor. And I think it's a brilliant image of the time we live in and approaches that we have to develop together. The engineers, the computer scientists, and the humanities and social scientists on the other side. So this is the image. If you get closer, these are people working in the building, and they create this bigger picture, which is completely different. This is Marilyn Monroe on the left side, and there are faces of people, actual people on the right side. But you can understand those people on the right only by using the thick data analysis. Thick data is an opposite to the big data. And when you put these two images together, you get a bigger picture about the solutions of the future and what people actually want and need. So to conclude, I presented 5 recommendations for the development of smart energy solutions for the post-COVID age. First of all, I really recommend to involve people in the development process from the beginning. At the end of the day, it's much cheaper than to make something and then to advertise it and brainwash people in this way to make them think they need something. If you go to the people and ask them what they actually want and need, you can understand it and make solutions that are meaningful and much more sustainable, long-lasting. Second, I recommend to combine the digital and analog solutions by bringing together the quantitative and qualitative approaches. So the big data and thick data. It means that we should, when we do sustainable and smart solutions for the future, we should combine different fields of science and different institutions and bring together the industry and academia. And by combining this, we get a bigger picture about what society wants and needs, and what the Homo coevidensis wants and needs. So discover, point 3, discover and consider the new habits of Homo coevidensis. So the COVID man, this year's man, is different than last year's man. So our lives have significantly changed in the past couple of months. And most probably we will not go back to our lifestyle from 2019 in a month of 2. So, and I'm not sure if we want to go back to the last year. Perhaps if we go back to the last year, it's the most dystopian scenarios of all. We should find new, better solutions to cohabitate on this planet. Point number 4, support the development of calm technologies and don't overburden people with the devices, smart meters, smart sockets, whatever is connected to energy that buzz, blink, send push notifications to people. If I'm on the seaside, I really don't want to receive a message from my refrigerator that the temperature has dropped for 3 degrees. I mean, if you're smart, I mean, the refrigerator, call the repairman on your own, or do something on your own. Don't bother the people if possible. If there is a smart laundry machine for the future, please wash the laundry and fold it and iron it by yourself. So this is a smart solution for the future. And finally, number 5, forget about users, customers, clients. So these are very passive words. Think instead about active people, smart people, and think about the planet. Because here, in what I presented today, we came to the shift from the expert mindset and expert development of solutions to the people-centered mindset. But this is not the end of the process. So in the future, we will have to make the next paradigm shift from the people-centered to the planet-centered mindset, and take into account not only people in this egoistic way, but start thinking much more eco-centrically, to put all beings and also non-living nature in the account, to change the way we live on this planet. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So a few questions that we have gotten. Firstly, you spoke about transportation and people's choices considering transportation. Car manufacturers and car industry forms one of the largest investments into energy shift and R&D regarding that. Also, in very many cases, government subsidies exist, etc. But how should we, or how can we motivate the people, as you said, the people, not the consumers or the clients, to make sustainable choices and make choices that also help the planet, as you concluded?
Thank you for the question. I can tell you my personal story. So this year we got rid of our car because it was useless. We don't go anywhere anymore. And this is really the time of transition for many people. The number of cars, personal or passenger cars sold this year has significantly declined. But we have to find, I mean, people still need the cars. And here it's an ideal time to make a shift to shared mobility and to the mobility as a service, and not, and we can get rid of this ideal of the car that matters to you because it's a part of your identity. When I present, for example, this issue to my mother that we can live without car, no problem, and we have 3 kids at home, and we can still live, and we can hire an electric car whenever we need it and visit her in another city. And then I say, but you can also get rid of the car. And she said, no way, the car is my freedom. And this is the image that is burned in our heads, the image that without the car, we cannot live, we cannot survive. And in this time of transition, we can really dissolve this dependency. I'm sure many of you remember the image of James Dean leaning on a car and smoking a cigarette. So this is the image of the 20th century. Now we need new images that will people consider as being cool, as being on the top of the pyramid that I showed before. So there can be still this big black car somewhere in the ecosystem of mobility, but it does not have to be on the top. So you're not on the top in social and cultural sense if you own this kind of car. What matters is that you're actually free and much more independent if you live a carless life. So if you don't own a car. So the answer to the question is very cultural, if I may answer in this anthropological way.
Thank you. Thank you for this answer. Another question that we got. So this is also about human behavior and changing people's way of living. So there have been different crazes before. So things that people sort of get into, social movements. Also, for example, Pokemon Go as an app a few years ago. So how do you make these different apps or solutions that might be a good idea into sustainable ones and ones that actually stick with people for years to come, so that we can make more sustainable choices for people?
Thank you for this question. I will disappear from a screen for a moment, so don't worry, I'll be back in a second. I have to take something that I want to show you. So I'm still here with you, and I'm coming back. I will reappear now. So, woof, I'm here. So this is another sustainable solutions that we made in the project called the Invisible Life of Waste, and it's analog. So what we realized in our ethnographic research in different cities about their waste management in Ljubljana, Graz in Austria, Zagreb, Trieste, Oslo, and Dubai is that people are really fed up with different apps. You have now an app for everything. We're just forgetting how useful and long-lasting the analog solutions are. And this is why we decided to make, instead of an app, a card game. So here you can see, hope, the cards. And this is one of the cards. You play with rats. So the name of the game is the Dirty Game. And why? Because we wanted to make a game, board game, that is transgressive, for people to put as much garbage on the table as possible, because the purpose of the game is to make cities dirty. So the rats, that are the main characters, are not really satisfied with the zero waste idea. They want to make the city dirty again and go back to the good old times when people threw away things in proper way. And why we packed it in this way? Because there are enough educational games too, not only the apps, but enough educational games. And if a family plays this kind of game, which is at the end of the day, of course, educational, they can get dirty, they can start talking about the idea of dirt, trash, waste. And when they end playing, they look around and they realize what's wrong with the planet and how can they fix it. And when we prepared the packing for this game, we even used an old tin can of coffee, Illy coffee, because we decided to use something that is waste and can be redesigned and used for another purpose. So to summarize, I think we should make a balance between analog and digital solutions for the future. And the analog has proven to be much more long-lasting than the digital ones. So you don't know, probably, you don't play anymore or use anymore the app that was used five years ago on your computer, on your phone. But you still use maybe Monopoly or play Monopoly that is 30 years or 50 years old. And we're too obsessed with the idea that everything that is digital is also smart. The analog solutions can be similarly smart. They just have to be designed in the right way.
Thank you. So this conference focuses a lot about industry and academia cooperation and collaboration and training the minds and specialists that we need in the energy shift. So from your societal point of view, what do you think that is necessary to add into curriculums and trainings so that new specialists in today's era with the energy shift are able to better understand the societal aspects of the energy shift?
Excellent question. Thank you very much for whoever asked this. I witness this every week because I have to teach my students from the distance. And what I try to transfer through the screen is also not only the knowledge, but also emotions. I think we have to stay connected in the human sense, even when we meet online, if we meet in digital, what we call virtual reality. And how to keep this human touch in the future, it's a huge challenge for developers of the smart and digital solutions. And for me, it's the most important part of the analog teaching, because you're close to people and a lot of information just disappears if we communicate in this way. So I'm just a two-dimensional image on the screen, and you will not be able to hear me in the way that we hear people when they are in the same room. So we have to design solutions that are really adapted not only to Homo covidensis that I presented today, but to the Homo sapiens. So it's cognitive capabilities, for example. So the information overload that I presented before went beyond all proportions, and we cannot receive so much information. I mean, my 3 children are in the rooms next door, and they get so much information about what do they have to learn, which video they have to look at, what are their homeworks, and so on, that neither us parents nor they, the children, cannot handle this anymore. And I think we should use this approach of digitalization with a human touch also in the future and in the next crisis. So the COVID-19 crisis is just one of the crises that will happen in the human history. We had much worse health crisis, and we will have probably much worse environmental, also economical crisis in the future. And we have to prepare for it now.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer, and thank you for your contribution to this conference.